Hey, how's it going, friends? And a very happy new year to all of you. May this year be better than the last for all of us. Which, needless to say, the bar is not very high. 2021 is like a kid who has a class presentation, but then the student before him just threw up and shat in front of the entire class because of stage fright. And all 2021 has to do is not do those things. And it will literally be the best year ever. Although the last year was pretty terrible, I like to imagine that 1988 was a close second because this was the year when ROBO VAMPIRE came into existence. Now the title of the movie is pretty misleading because it makes it sound like it's about a part robot, part vampire. Unfortunately, this movie is not about a blood-sucking robot. Instead, it's about a knockoff RoboCop fighting something called the Jiangshi, which are monsters from Chinese mythology that are part vampire, part zombie, aka zompires, and they like to hop around and suck the soul of their victims. The movie tries really hard to make these creatures look horrifying, but honestly, zompires hopping everywhere perhaps makes it one of the funniest movies ever. Now I can't even begin to tell you the plot of this movie, mainly because there isn't any. Imagine hanging a camera around your dog and hit the record button and just letting the dog run buck wild through the neighborhood. And when they come back, I guarantee you whatever the dog has on camera is going to be like 100 times better than whatever this thing is. I mean, 40% of this movie isn't even this movie. The guys who made this movie took a movie from Thailand and just mashed it together with this trash and just created the dumpster fire that is this movie. So this movie begins with two guys in a military uniform taking this other guy somewhere at gunpoint. And now you might be asking, who are these people? And what, pray tell, are they doing here? To you, I say, it is way too early in this movie to be asking sensible questions. In fact, do yourself a favor the size of this universe and just keep all of your rational or reasonable questions to your goddamn self, because none of them are going to be answered. Now, on the other hand, if you want to know where the bunny zompires are, well, here are the fucking bunny zompires. In the middle of nowhere for no fucking reason at all. That has to be hands down the best dying scene ever, and it is literally also a carbon copy of my face while I watch this movie. And then the movie abruptly cuts to these criminals getting drugs off a boat and just taking it somewhere when they get ambushed by a few more guys in a military uniform. But then after this weird jump cut, they cut again to the boat sailing away. It's just really weird how they cut it. They could just show these guys running off onto a boat, unless it is not their boat. They just took that clip from somewhere else, making it look like they're running away, but doing a terrible job about it. Before we go any further, I would just like to clarify that this guy over here is Tom, and he's the protagonist of this movie. And he's eventually also going to be turned into a cyborg, aka ROBO VAMPIRE. And I'm making this clarification mainly because no one in this movie ever addresses him as Tom in front of him. So basically, the facial identity of the hero of this movie is kind of left to your imagination. The first time I watched this movie, I swear to God, I had no clue who Tom was. So I watched the entire movie not knowing what the protagonist looks like. At this point, the movie introduces the villain. And his name is Cole, because you know that's the name that strikes fear among the masses. And he's come up with a plan to get rid of Tom. Now you must be wondering, oh, is he gonna, I don't know, hire a bunch of assassins to get rid of him? Maybe he's gonna poison his morning cup of Earl Grey tea. Or maybe he's gonna kidnap Tom's favorite cat, Rufus.
I've employed a Taoist. He'll train vampires to deal with him.
So this dude has hired a monk to create an army of zompires to deal with one guy. Tad overkill, but A+ for creativity. Good job, Cole. Oh, by the way, Tom doesn't really have a cat named Rufus, nor does he drink tea. I just wanted to put some meat on this walking skeleton of a character. So then Cole sends these two guys to the monk's place to do some random things for the zompires, like throw money at them and light up incense sticks, throw rice at them, and then also smear them with drugs because apparently that keeps them asleep. But then there are these other non-junkie zompires, I guess, that are just standing on the side that have this dirty paper stuck on their forehead, and apparently that stops them from, I don't know, wreaking havoc. But then the dirty paper is not enough for this specific zompire over here to use its psychic powers to steal this guy's cigarette, which then somehow ends up burning the other guy's dick, who falls on the coffin of the junkie zompires, who then get up, levitate this entire piece of chicken towards them, chomp it up, and then send it right back into the mouths of these two guys. I had no clue what the hell was going on here. Before they're about to get killed by the zompires, the Taoist monk shows up and sticks dirty paper on the forehead of the junkie zompires. And then they just go back into the coffin, which then doesn't make sense is why are they even using the drugs? It seems like the paper does the trick. So I have no clue why you would spend so much money or resources getting like drugs for dead people. As is the consistent theme of this movie, two more random guys show up at the monk's place to look at an even stronger and scarier zompire that the monk has been creating.
I've completed the vampire project. Come and witness his incredible power for yourselves now.
Before the zompire wakes up, some lady wearing a bedsheet just flies in and starts setting shit on fire.
How can that be a lady ghost?
What a weird question to ask. Shouldn't your question be like, who is that? Or is that a ghost? How can that be a lady ghost? It's like you already know that's a ghost. And I think that's kind of offensive, to say the least. I mean, that could be the monk's landlady, pissed at all the noise made by the hopping zompires, and she's here to, you know, deal with it. I don't think it's very nice for this guy to just assume that it's a ghost. But turns out she is a ghost. So apparently she and this tub of germs were an item before this guy died, and she's pissed that the monk has turned his body into a zompire.
And both his parents opposed our marriage. It was then that we decided if we could not be together in this life, Peter and I would be together forever in the afterlife. You have robbed us of this by turning him into a vampire beast. Now my only thought is of revenge. Now my dreams have been shattered. I hold you responsible.
A+ for dialogue delivery there, but I think the star of that scene was this giant piece of wall in the middle. And now if you're thinking I've cut this clip in a weird way where you can only see half of each character, that's not me. That's just how the movie has been filmed. And there's just multiple instances where the aspect ratio is so weird that you just only see half of a character talking. And then the monk and Moaning Myrtle over here start fighting, which is absolutely hilarious. He's just mumbling nonsense there. He's just like, the monk then awakens the zompire to fight against the ghost.
Peter, I'll still love you forever.
So this guy's name is Peter. And before they can kill each other, Peter the zompire remembers who the ghost is. And then this dude over here asks the monk to hold a marriage ceremony for Peter and Moaning Myrtle.
Alice, that lady ghost loves him deeply. Let's fulfill her wish. Besides, both of them will be under our counsel once they're married, right?
I don't know what the fuck is going on here. Like, it's so bizarre. Then in the next scene, Tom and his team just get murdered by Peter the zompire and his friend. And this scene is super ridiculous, but the funniest part is this guy getting killed by a zompire, but he cannot keep his face straight looking at this zompire hopping towards it. At this point, the movie transitions into that other movie from Thailand, and the transition is so horrible. the most pathetic attempt for them to make a connection. There is a drug ring in the Thai movie that captures this girl from the church, and Tom and this other guy, they try to work around this and say that this girl is part of his team and she's like an agent who has infiltrated this drug ring, and Tom is gonna save her. But that is the most stupidest idea ever because these are two different movies. So as you can imagine, we never see Tom ever helping out this girl. So there is literally no point talking about this movie because there is no connection. The only funny thing that I want to talk about from this movie from Thailand is how they torture this agent, and it's by waterboarding.
Turn it off!
Oh, my bad. Drip irrigation. I guess that's a good way in a sense that after like 5 hours of just a single droplet dripping on your head, you'd probably be annoyed as shit. And you're like, fuck it, I'm just gonna tell you whatever I know. Just stop this goddamn droplet dropping on my head. Tom's dead body is then taken to what I think is a hospital, but the doctor is just standing at the side, just turning these knobs. I don't know why he's doing that. I've never been in an operating room or whatever this is supposed to be, but I'm pretty certain that the doctor doesn't just stand at the side and turn knobs on a machine that doesn't even seem to be connected to the guy. And I don't know why the doctor is just watching from the side while this nurse is performing a very dubious procedure. Shouldn't you be using like a defibrillator, like to like make his heart beat again? Like, I honestly don't think just like pressing on his neck is gonna help you bring him back to life. This guy who is a scientist on his team asks permission from this other guy to make his body into a cyborg.
Since Tom's dead, I want to make use of his body to create an android-like robot, Mr. Glenn. I would appreciate your approving my application.
Are you assured of success?
Mm-hmm.
All right, your application's approved.
At this point, I started asking questions about their organization. Who are they? They're supposed to be anti-drug agents, but like, why are they wearing military uniform? Initially, I honestly thought they were part of some junta, like some illegal junta or something. I mean, I have to say they are very efficient. Like, sir, can I just take his body, like chop it up and like turn it into some robot? Like, fuck yeah, go right ahead. There's no bureaucracy here. There's no red tape. We just get to the point. The scene where they're trying to make him into a cyborg is just really awful because they literally spent like less than a minute doing that. The guy just takes a metal leg, puts this other metal thing on top of it, and then suddenly it's all done. And then we see ROBO Vampire for the very first time. False advertising would be understated because he looks nothing like the poster. I mean, the poster literally make him look like RoboCop, but he doesn't even have a single piece of metal on him because you can see that it's just silver painted cloth on top of it. And they try to show off ROBO Vampire as the strong guy. And what I perceived from that was that like he doesn't need guns. He just got, these guns, or probably there's some guns that are already attached to him that are much stronger, but not really. He just picks up another gun and that's what he uses as his weapon. The fact that he's a robot is so unnecessary. It could just be like a random guy with a gun. And then there's this scene where Cole tries to kill Robo Vampire. He sends zompires after him, and this is so ridiculous because the zompire is just jumping around him. And Robo Vampire is shooting at them. But through this entire movie, you'll see that guns really don't do anything to the zompire. He's just so completely useless. And the fact that he's useless is exemplified in this next scene where Cole then just uses a bazooka to just blast him to Kingdom Come. Why on earth did you make this whole army of vampires? There was no need for it, because you literally just blasted him into 1,000 pieces. Obviously, this is not the end of Robo Vampire, because the alleged scientist and the team of alleged doctor and nurse are back at it again, trying to fix him up, which I don't know what they're trying to fix up at this point, because from this scene, it seems like there could have been nothing left behind. This is not an android anymore. You're just creating a robot now. They fix him up and he's good as new. In this next scene, Robo Vampire interrupts Peter the Zombie and Moaning Myrtle having sex. I'm not even gonna show any part of that clip, but I would say whatever you're imagining, times it 100, and that's how horrifying this whole scene was. And then Robo Vampire starts fighting with Peter and Moaning Myrtle, but it's just a bunch of cut scenes thrown in, and it's just so confusing what's going on. But then the fight just ends and I have no clue what happened, like who won, because we just cut off to some other fight between Robo Vampire and Peter the Zombie. And then he just shoots it with a stick on fire that comes out of his gun. And that's how he kills the Zombie. And that's literally this movie. I think this is literally the worst movie I've ever seen. I watched it like 3 times, so you can imagine how brain dead I'm feeling right now. If you guys like that video, please hit the subscribe button. I hope you guys have a great year ahead. I'll see you guys soon, so goodbye.